AAT Birds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Quick, he's going to go. What a give it to Smith, and they stop him again. Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Matt Ware. Midfield. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up his head and falls forward. And he fumbles the football, and the Eagles have it. It's gone. And the Eagles win.
It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AAT Birds Weekly Report. I myself, Johnny Ulecka, is joined as always by Chip, at Chip for the Birds, at Umpire Stories. So it's a tough one here. The Eagles are 10-2. They did lose. They got pretty much smacked around against the San Francisco 49ers. A huge game coming up with the Dallas Cowboys. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. We have talk about that game, go into a little bit, what we saw, what we didn't like, everything along the lines of that. Get into this Dallas game because it's a huge game, playoff implications, seeding implications. There's a lot going into it. And the Eagles added a piece to the defense, which after we watched what we watched on Sunday, it was something that is needed.
Absolute
so we'll get into
necessity.
That. We will get into all of that. A couple of roster moves that they made, but definitely something that we will touch on. But first of all, that game was a tough watch. And I'm going to open it up with, my feelings of it is when they went down to the red zone back-to-back times and they only get 3 points each and they don't punch any in for a touchdown. I said right there, that's not good. You can't be, kicking field goals against a top-tier team like the San Francisco 49ers. And that was very, very tough to see because they're able to get right down the field and then they get into the red zone and they just kind of fell a little flat.
Right.
And it was a tough thing. It was kind of a precursor of what you were going to see the rest of the game, but we didn't know that because the way the defense came out the first two drives looked great, looked amazing. I thought, I said, wow, man, Cunningham's out. You're not going to have to worry. Look at the way the linebackers are attacking, which, was tough. But for me, that was the first issue was when they went down to the red zone twice. And mind you, they were 12 for 12 the last 12 trips to the red zone to get a touchdown. So they were very effective. I know they had the early start in the season. They struggled, but then they were really effective. And then it just seemed to kind of flatline there. But it was a tough one. It was a tough one to swallow. But again, listen, it happens. A lot of the teams in the NFC, a lot of teams in the NFL have been beaten soundly this year. And, unfortunately, the Eagles had to do it this past week.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I look back at this game, I mean, it was a tough watch. It was almost to the point of I wanted to turn it off, but I won't.
I agree. Me too. I wanted to turn off, but I said, you know what? As a fan, you can't do that. If you're a fanatic,
is what we do. I mean, you have to watch every last stinking snap. But it's also the kind of game that you can flush. I mean, the Eagles played 3 games in 13 days. The 49ers had 10 days to prepare for this one, and the 49ers came out prepared. We know the 49ers had extra motivation after losing in the NFC Championship. We know that all of the talking had been going around. We know this Eagles team had geared up for this gauntlet idea. And the fact that we've done as well as we have in this gauntlet run is fantastic. I have been able to kind of push this one aside a little bit. I'm not as distraught as a lot. I mean, it was an ugly game. There is no questioning that. There are so many things that we're going to talk about tonight that the Eagles need to adapt and change. But it was kind of just like the Jets game. It was a game where we weren't really prepared. We got our asses handed to us. And now it's how do we respond? Now, obviously, after the Jets game, we responded pretty well for quite a few weeks in a row. Now it's pretty serious because we have our NFC East run and the season is winding down. We have injuries left and right. We've got guys stepping up. We've got guys that we're signing. I think that, the 49ers proved that they might be the most talented roster in football. I still don't think highly of Brock Purdy. I think he's got weapons for days. He didn't do anything to blow me away. I think that, our team started the game off strong and made Brock Purdy look absolutely childish in the first quarter. And then when we stopped getting pressure, he was able to sit back there and throw to all of his various weapons. So it doesn't surprise me that we lost the game. It surprised me how badly we lost the game, but I'm hoping that it's a wake up moment because that's what the Eagles needed clearly yet again.
Yeah, it was definitely a wake up moment when everything that you saw, and it was just tough because especially the way the third down defense has been playing, and it's something that's very eye opening and very concerning, especially when it's 3rd and 5 or more. And I think the biggest thing, and we've seen it for years, was the defensive corners playing so far off. Like it's
it's Jim Johnson all over again.
6-7 yards off. It's just, to me, you're not giving your defensive line any type of shot.
None.
Rush to pass, to be able to cause a little havoc, play up. And I understand that Bradbury and Slay aren't real press man corners, and I understand that. Wholeheartedly. But again, there's got to be a little bit better of a way. And I think it isn't even only that, but it's the communication aspect. And today, Sean Desai talked about we have to be better on the back end and communicating and all that. Listen, it's been 13 weeks going.
Yeah.
You've had enough time to be able to get this communication. You've got veterans in the back. This isn't all rookies. Yeah, you have your Eli Ricks and you have some of your Josh Jobs when he was playing. You have some of these younger guys that are playing, Sidney Browns and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're 13 weeks in. This whole aspect of, the communication, it needs to be settled, needs to be solved, because you have veterans in the back end that needs to be able to, shift it off and to not have what happened in the Super Bowl. Remember that all the motion and everything.
As soon as they started, and that's kind of been our Achilles heel. And we know how good the 49ers are at running motion. It's what they do. Yeah. So I think that there's a decent amount of blame to go around. I think that for as good and consistent as Reed Blankenship has been, he looked really awful on Sunday. I think, the fact that they released, not just, designated him for the practice squad or whatever it is that they have to do, but the fact that they flat out released Christian Ellis says a lot, because again, he started off the first quarter like the whole defense did, very, very strong. And then he got beat consistently. The entire defense got beat consistently. The defensive line got no pressure. Brock Purdy's jersey was unbelievably clean. And then you flip to the offensive side of the ball. Once again, they abandoned the run game. And again, I know how good the front of San Francisco's defense is. But in theory, when Greenlaw was ejected, that should have been open season for running the ball with our great offensive line. It should have been open season for slants in the middle of the field. It should have been open season for whatever we had playing tight end to get open. And it was a bad set of game plans. And it was poorly executed. And you cannot, we've said this before, against these great teams, you can't come out flat. We've been very lucky to come back from 10 points down these past couple weeks. We're not going to be able to come back from 10 points down against this San Francisco team. And the San Francisco 49ers talked all week and they backed it up. And you know what? Now it's the Eagles' turn to do something about it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's that punch in the face. You got knocked down. You need to figure it out, get back up, and keep going, because, listen, this isn't where your season's over and the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
They're still below us.
It's not. So this is a blip in the road. This is a little speed bump that you're going to have to.
We hope it's a blip in the road.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
because just like winning is contagious, losing has the potential to be contagious as well. So I think this Dallas game it's a pretty big one. Not to put unbelievable pressure on one game, but we kind of have to. This is a game where we need everybody to realize that it is a big game and they cannot come out flat like they have been doing. When you look at the highlight of the game for the Eagles, it was Big Dom on the sideline getting involved in a fight and showing the most fight out of anybody in an Eagles jersey on Sunday.
Yeah, that was something else.
And that should have been a moment where the Eagles went, holy cow, let's capitalize on this. Because I know the fan base did. His sales on the autism website went through the roof.
Yeah.
Twitter, he was trending on Twitter. I mean, that was a moment that the Eagles had to go, okay, we're going to win this one for Big Dom. And instead, that was the turning point that the 49ers utilized to absolutely slap us from that point on.
Yeah, and I think, looking at the defensive aspect and, being able to use that as a momentum, they just didn't. The other issue is they couldn't tackle. So many missed tackles, and it's just a little uncharacteristic because they've actually been a pretty good tackling team this year. They missed way too many tackles. Of course, Nicholas Morrow was absolutely
atrocious.
He was exposed big time. Christian Ellis was lost. And as you mentioned, Christian Ellis was waived today. So which was interesting because in my eyes,
I would have gone with Morrow.
Well, I think Morrow would stay because of the veteran aspect, but I thought a guy like Van Sumeren, because, he was on the practice squad, but they must think really highly of him that they'd lose him in waivers and potentially they can get Ellis back on the practice squad.
Right.
Because now
Christian Ellis, he had an amazing training camp when he came into the game for Cunningham 2 weeks ago. He looked great and he had a phenomenal first quarter, but then he just couldn't keep up with elite players like George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey. These guys are some of the top tier at their position.
I think,
and those linebackers that we currently have are not. And us, once again, shorting out money on linebackers is coming to bite us.
I think what you have to really look at too, and I think it was a little bit, it was an undervalue of his skill set, is Zach Cunningham and how good Cunningham
He's been phenomenal. Once again, a linebacker that they pick up on a 1-year prove-it deal is our leading tackler.
He's limited in practice, Adam. Adam's asking about Cunningham. He's trending in the right direction to play.
Right. It's the Kaiser White thing all over again. When we signed Kaiser White to our 1-year deal, he was our leading tackler, and he was absolutely phenomenal, and he parlayed that into a deal with the Cardinals. Cunningham's going to do the same thing. He's going to parlay it into a deal with a different team. But once again, the Eagles have got to get some consistent linebacker play.
Which now brings up the Eagles signed Shaq Leonard.
See what I did there?
And, he picked Philadelphia Eagles, which is great. I didn't want him to go in Dallas. I didn't want him to go to Dallas. Now, listen, I'm not saying you're getting an all-pro. He's turning into what he was. But you have to understand what you had at the position.
Oof.
Shaq Leonard, he may not be that all-pro, but if he can give you what a Kaiser White or a TJ Edwards was able to give you last year, which is very capable. Listen, it is definitely an upgrade. He is a playmaking linebacker now. He hasn't, been the playmaker last couple of years, but he has been hurt. But now he is healthy. Listen, you're not expecting a guy on the street to come in and to be all-world, all-pro. But it's like that. It's like the aspect of what Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh did last year, to come in and do your role, fill your role, be able to flash here and there, and to be able to sustain your play and to be a sustainable player for this defense.
And we have to make sure that, obviously they signed him to the active roster. He's going to be playing a lot this week, but we have to make sure that he's up to speed in whatever it is that Sean Desai plans to do. Again, I look at this Dallas offense, and we're going to get into our Dallas preview, but Dallas's offense against good teams hasn't been great. I don't know where our defense stands right now, and that's very concerning after week 13.
Listen, Dallas's offense has been playing pretty well recently. But in hindsight, their defense also has been giving up a ton of yards, and the Seattle Seahawks have been giving up a lot recently. And even against Washington on Thanksgiving, they gave up a ton of yards. There was a couple fourth and one plays that, the Washington Commanders, they wanted to run out of the shotgun, which was kind of dumb in my opinion, but they got stopped on those two plays after they ran all the way down the field. So they were able to move the ball. I think this is a game where unfortunately, it may just be your offenses have to match each other. It has to be match.
But that's what this game should have been against San Francisco, and it wasn't.
Well, listen, there was a couple points with the San Francisco game, and the one was going to the red zone twice and not getting touchdowns, or at least getting one touchdown to be up at least 10-0. The second one was the Josh Sweat offsides, whether he was or wasn't.
He wasn't. Let's start right here. He absolutely wasn't.
Okay. That's dunk because instead of 10-3, now it's 10 to now it was not 6-3, now it's 7-6. The other thing was the Quez Watkins, all he had to do was stop short and let the guy run him over, and he didn't. He actually let the guy make the play, and the guy did make a play, and it really wasn't pass interference. So people complaining about that, it wasn't pass interference. Quez Watkins didn't sell it. The other thing was later in that game, Reed Blankenship just missing an interception.
Yep.
Just going off. That could have been a big game. So these little things.
And again, that's where the motion comes in. When you have teams that run motion as well as the Chiefs do, as well as the 49ers do, and you have players like on the Eagles defense who are young and still getting caught up. Having an experienced linebackers, that's where it goes to hurt you. Having an inexperienced safety, that's where it goes to hurt you. You end up getting lost. And all a guy like Brock Purdy has to do is just manage the game. And he did a great job doing that. And on the flip side of that, you look at the way the Eagles game planned our offense. We had DeAndre Swift, our best weapon, carry the ball 6 times. 6 carries.
Yeah.
You had Jalen Hurts carry it 7 times. Okay. And we know a couple of those were brotherly shoves. But you completely abandoned the run game. The thing that makes our offense tick is the play action and being able to build off the run game. You wear them down with our offensive line, and then you throw over top of them. And I get that San Francisco's got a great front 7. I understand that. But to completely abandon the run game is one of the major reasons why we lost this game. And I'm not saying any of the idiot things that certain broadcasters are saying, like we should be playing Mariota. I know we're going to talk about that. That's absolutely moronic. Jalen Hurts is the quarterback of this team. He is an MVP candidate. In my mind, he's still the front runner because by the end of the first half, he had already thrown the ball 30 times. In what universe is our Eagles offense good when we throw the ball 30 times in the first half? And then the numbers obviously in the second half were what they were because of the fact that we were down and trying to play catch up. I know the numbers are going to be a little bit flipped here and there, but you abandoned the run game, and it's why we lost this game, one of many reasons.
How much do you think, now in my eyes, I think it's a lot more than people want it to be. How big of a loss was Dallas Goedert in terms of the run game?
Huge in the run game, right? And it's actually funny because we saw when Cam Jurgens went out, like the guys that they have in our run game along the offensive line are some of the best at what they do. But you have noticed over these last couple of weeks, when one cog of that is missing, we are much more ineffective, or maybe we're more gun shy. Maybe we're afraid to run the ball. I don't know if losing Dallas Goedert in the run game, we have accurately established information on, because we didn't run the ball on Sunday. We abandoned the run game. So how can we say we were effective at running the ball when we didn't run the ball? DeAndre Swift having 6 carries is an abomination.
I think the big thing about it is when you start the game out and it really doesn't work, it's just kind of
just give up on it.
It was more of a throw ball game because of the secondary of San Francisco, but you have to kind of keep them a little bit honest with,
and that's my point.
Game.
And that's my point. Again, like AJ Brown had 8 catches, awesome. Devontae Smith had 9 catches, awesome. Gainwell got involved in the passing game. I have no issue with that. Quez Watkins had a couple catches. Boston Scott had a catch. Again, there was a good passing offense, but you cannot rely on the passing offense when you have the best running offensive line in football.
So I think another thing to look at too is it was 14-6 at half, and then San Fran got the ball.
It was a winnable game.
San Fran got the ball, went right down, they scored. So at that point, I think instead of running the ball, the Eagles did what they wanted to do and throw the ball. And then the game kind of got a little too out of hand, and so be it.
And the fourth quarter was going to be all passing at that point. Right.
I think the emphasis of running the ball is, keeping the defense honest. And, you want the RPO because you want to be able to have that effect on linebackers and secondary, and to make them, if they have to bite, to be able to beat them over the top, to be able to do certain things with your pass game, and not just have to rely on the pass game. And you don't want to be one dimensional. You want to be, multifaceted when you look at the offense, because when you can do that, one, you can take a game over. The other thing is you can wind a game out. So if you're able to run the ball and able to grind that clock out, especially against the team that's coming up this weekend against the Dallas Cowboys, you have a team who is clicking offensively. If you're able to get 1 or 2 stops or get a turnover and you're able to run the ball,
give them the ball right
chew the clock. That's one thing that, and I think a lot of it has to do too with, when I look at that, that is demoralizing the teams when you're able to do that. And I think that's something that they have to do more. It isn't about, they need to beat, this team by more than 14, 17, they need 3-4 scores. They need to have a huge blowout win. It isn't about blowout wins. This is, you look at last year's Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. They had, I think, 3 games that they won by 20 points. Like, there was no 30, 40 point win. There was no huge win. One was first game of the year. They had a lot of really close, it doesn't matter. Like, this isn't the college football playoff. You're not Florida State. You're not going to miss the playoffs.
In the NFL. It's tough to win games in the NFL.
Yeah. You're not going to miss the playoffs if you don't win games, by 20 points against the bad team. It goes by the record, not by.
And it goes by how you look overall. Right? The Eagles, again, when we talk about game plans, when Dre Greenlaw was ejected from the game, you have to immediately attack the middle of the field. And they didn't. They left the middle of the field completely wide open when it was there for the taking. Dre Greenlaw is one of the best linebackers in football. And they just said, that's fine. We won't worry about his backup. And instead, it was long throw, long throw, long throw, long throw. Jalen on the run, forgetting about the run game. It was a bad game plan. And it was once again another example of not making adjustments during the game. And that's something that we've got to see change.
It's kind of tough, though, because when the defense can't get a stop, 6 straight touchdown drives, there really isn't much that you can do.
Agreed.
And I think that was, tough, and hopefully it's a focal point when you look at the film and everything, when what they're doing in terms of prepping for this upcoming matchup with Dallas. It's it's not going to be easy. Dak and the Cowboys are playing really well. They're able to move the ball, passing it. The one thing that they are struggling with is running the ball. But again, I think this game, a lot of it has to do with, if you're able to get a turnover or 2, it's going to completely flip, because that's one thing they're not doing. They're not getting the turnovers.
Not getting turnovers.
That's tough.
And it comes down to, look, we know we have a phenomenal defensive line, but if they don't get pressure and you allow any quarterback in this league to stand upright in the pocket and just wait. I mean, there were plays, and it's kind of frustrating. There were plays that Jalen Hurts had almost 7 to 8 seconds of untouched time, unrushed time, and guys weren't getting open. So it's kind of a whole thing. But if our defense isn't even getting in the face of these, again, Brock Purdy did not do anything to impress me. He managed the game with his elite players. He didn't make any mistakes, but he didn't do anything to impress me. Dak Prescott, if you get in his face, he will make mistakes.
Yeah, and you're going to have to, because you're going to have to deal with, the middle of the field, because they're going to put CD in the slot. They're going to have Jake Ferguson. They're going to try to, attack the middle of your defense. And, it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles deploy the new linebacker, how much he plays. It's going to be interesting to see, what they do. Listen, it's going to be a tough game. The Eagles haven't won in Dallas since 2017, and they haven't swept the Dallas Cowboys since 2011. And the Cowboys are on a 14-game winning streak at home. So there's a lot of factors. Again, all these things are going to have to come to an end one way or another.
And again,
it's going to happen. It's not going to be to the end of time.
Time game. It's all of the things.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be that type of game for, the spotlight's going to be on Jalen. How do they and the Eagles, how do they come out and how do they react after a tough loss, getting beaten, the third game in 13 days while the 49ers were on 10 days rest, and you have a Dallas Cowboys team coming in on 10 days rest while you come in, like everything is lined up against you. You're still 10-2, yes, but
which again is huge. You talk about like baseball and things like that. You can't win the division in March and April and May, but you can lose it. Same thing with football. I mean, you only get 17 opportunities, and we have a strong record to start. Like we're going to make the playoffs. That's fine, but seeding is going to matter. Coming into Lincoln Financial Field in January matters.
I don't even think it's more of that than it's you have to play one last game. You don't have to worry about the wild card.
There's
you start out in the division.
You also have to start building continuity with this team. You have to start having a strong offensive game plan and make adjustments as necessary, not out of necessity. Yeah. Defensively, you have to have a strong defensive game plan, which is getting to the quarterback and making sure from the minute the game starts until the minute the game ends, the quarterback is uneasy and makes mistakes. Without that defensive pressure, it's open season on our back seven.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting the way the Eagles attack the Cowboys back seven, because they've struggled recently. And I know Deron Bland is in conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. He's got all these interceptions, these pick sixes and all that. He's given up over 270 receiving yards the last 2 weeks.
It's the Trayvon Diggs of it all.
You can beat him. Use his aggressiveness against him to be able to attack them and, be able to get your yards, be able to. But the thing is, if he jumps a route, it's also almost like the Asante Samuel effect. If he jumps the route, he's going to pick it off and, could possibly go to the house. So play that against him. So do some, out and goes, do some, you got to try to, manipulate your routes and to be able to make him bite. I know Jalen Mills, I liked him as safety when he was here, but when he was a corner, he had that tendency to bite on those double moves. And maybe that's something you try with Deron Bland, try a double move here and there, try something along the lines of that. But I think the Eagles offensively, the receivers, I think they'll be able to have some success. And if you get Goddard back, which looks like it's trending in the right direction.
It looks like he had a full practice. He looks like he's good to go.
So having him back is unreal, and it's great to see, because I thought that was going to be a season-ending injury. Luckily, it's not. The one thing I do want to bring up to you before we get into our Ulecka Locks and our predictions is actually two things. The first thing is Avonte Maddox. Uh-huh. He was hurt on week 2, I believe. Week 2. September 14th, had a pec injury. Usually pec injuries that require surgery, it's about 3 to 4 months. We're coming up on, in another week, we're coming up on the 3rd month. My eyes, I'm looking at this. Do you think there's a potential return come playoff time in another month? So it'll be 4 months. Do you think there's any type of shot? Or is it like the Reese Hoskins thing where maybe, and then never happens?
I mean, here's the only thing that I will say. He made the visor of, the fallen soldiers, the Sirianni fallen visor number situation. So I would like to see it. I would like to see it. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Is there anybody who's made the Sirianni visor come off the visor?
I don't know. That seems like it's going to be a Ulecka study.
Yeah, something thinking
about. We're going to spend way too much time checking out. I know.
That's an interesting aspect to think about, because I do believe Lane Johnson was on his hat and then was off his hat, I think, in 2021. No, 2021.
I don't know.
His first year. Remember when he was out for like 3 games?
He only puts players on the visor when they are on injured reserve. And if you put Lane Johnson on, it was during all that mental health stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it may have been a show of solidarity.
Potentially. It is something to watch, something I
have a great time with that. You go to the dark corners of the internet like you normally do. Enjoy.
I'm sure it's not, but for him to tear his pec early in the season,
I would love to see him come back. I truly would.
Maybe there'd be a possibility that he can come back, but it's definitely something to watch in the coming weeks as December rolls around, and since he was only hurt in the beginning of September. The other one was potentially, I know there's talk about Ndamukong Suh signing with the contender. I would be all for it, adding extra bodies to that interior pass rush because, for me, I think the rotation, you have a rookie in Jalen Carter. He's a rookie. He's never played this many games. He's coming up on the most games he's played in a season. Well, the more you get to, you don't want him to hit that rookie wall, and then you're, struggling there. Jordan Davis is still playing. You have Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox is older. You don't want him playing a ton of
Milton Williams has been dealing with some injury stuff.
Williams, getting that extra guy, I think that would be an addition I would welcome.
Right.
And then the other one is, lo and behold, the player that you did not want jettisoned, who was let go, potentially coming back as in Zach Ertz. But there's also some talk that the San Francisco 49ers are interested as well, which he is a Bay Area kid. He went to Stanford.
The 49ers do not need Zach Ertz. So that would be absurd. You need a team who needs tight end help.
Depth, definitely.
Depth for sure.
That's still the number 3 blocking. That's all he is. And Calcaterra and Alberto haven't done really anything.
Alberto has done nothing. Alberto has done absolutely nothing. I like the story of Zach Ertz. I think that'd be awesome to see. I could see him signing with the Ravens. I know they've been struggling since.
John Harbaugh did say that they're not interested. I'm going to paint this picture, and then we can go on to the Ulecka Locks and the predictions. Christmas, 4:30. He comes out of the tunnel. The ovation. I think that would be.
Wait, wasn't that game flexed to Sunday night?
No, it's a Christmas day. It's Monday, Christmas night, 4:30. And because the week before they're in Seattle, so they're not home. Their next home game is the Giants game. So that apparently he's supposed to sign with somebody next week. So basically around this time next week, check back in. We'll check back in. Maybe he will be an Eagle. Maybe he won't. But yeah, so just thought those were some interesting tidbits.
I would love it. I know he's 11 catches away from the all-time franchise record. Again, I love Zach Ertz. I don't think we ever should have gotten rid of him. I understand why we got rid of him. Again, as predicted, I don't think that Dallas Goedert has been the complete replacement that everyone hoped he would be. I think that Dallas Goedert does some things better than Zach Ertz. But we don't have an elite tight end on our team. When you see a guy like George Kittle does what he does, when you see guys like Mark Andrews do what he does, we don't have an elite tight end on our team. We have a very good tight end, but he's not elite. And I don't think Zach Ertz is elite. I don't think Zach Ertz is elite. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is I would love to see it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but yeah, we can jettison Alberto and Grant Calcaterra and Jack Stoll. We can get rid of all those bums for a Zach Ertz.
Again, I disagree with you. We've been down this road. Maybe we can revisit in the off season like we usually do. But there is that. But now we get into our...
It's time for the Ulecka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
Alrighty. So when we look at the Ulecka Locks from last week, you had Miami winning by 15. Well, yeah, they won by 15 because the Washington Commanders
suck.
I had Justin Herbert 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, no.
He did not.
They barely won 6-0 to the terrible New England Patriots.
What an awful game, by the way.
How about what an awful game tomorrow night when it's the Steelers and Patriots? Trubisky versus whoever the hell they throw.
Yeah, but remember, somehow the Steelers are still in it.
Yeah, well, they are. They are still in it.
The AFC is atrocious. The Jets are still in it.
Yeah, a lot of bad football.
Carolina's the first team that got eliminated, 2 wins.
Yeah, and maybe that's why they got rid of their coach too. But we are both 5-9.
That double down was big for me.
We both doubled down the week before, so that's why we're a week ahead. So it brings us to this week, and I'll start it out. And I think that Shaq Leonard will outsnap Nick Morrow on Sunday night. So I think he'll have more snaps percentage-wise defensively than Nicholas Morrow. And that is, of course, with Zach Cunningham coming back. I'm going to go with Nicholas Morrow and is going to be outsnapped by Shaq Leonard.
I'm staying away from this Eagles Cowboys game for this just because it seems to work better when I don't touch it. So I'm going to go with the Lions-Bears game.
Okay.
I think that even though it's a home game for the Bears, I don't think that Justin Fields is as good as everybody wants him to be. I got the Lions winning that game by 10.
Really tough one there you're going with.
I mean, it's still Soldier Field. I mean, it's still cold and gross, and Lions are a dome team, but
we'll see.
I'm going safe.
I was talking to someone today. A matchup I'd like to see in the playoffs would be the Los Angeles Rams making the playoffs, going to Detroit to play the Lions, and Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit to play.
Oh, that'd be great.
I think that'd be a great storyline. I think that'd be great
storyline. I love that
when you're looking at the playoffs. But we'll see how these locks work this week. Hopefully, I can get back on my winning ways because I have a pretty long losing streak right now. So I'd like to get back into the win column there. But now this brings us to our predictions for this Sunday night. I will start it with you, Chip. I'll let you be the bearer of bad news.
I have picked the Eagles.
Potentially.
I have picked the Eagles in every game this season. And I'm going to continue to. I think it's a pretty hard-fought game. I have the Eagles winning this one 31-27.
Wow. So, like I mentioned earlier, I talked about Eagles haven't won it since 2017 in Dallas. They haven't swept Dallas since 2011. Dallas hasn't lost in 14 straight regular season matchups at home. They had a 14-game winning streak at home. That's got to come to an end sometime.
There you go.
It's not going to go on forever. And what better than on national TV, Sunday Night Football, for the Eagles to come away victorious and basically wrap up the division with a victory. Close to your score, but I have 31-28. Philadelphia Eagles come away with the win and head on home to get ready for the Seattle Seahawks on Monday Night Football. Jesus. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a good game. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yep. Eagles Cowboys usually are a very tough, good game. It's tough fought. Look at the first game of the year that they played each other. Hopefully, it's not like that because that one, that started a stretch of these games where we're on the edge of our seats and our hearts are in our throats. Trying to will the Eagles to a win and they don't lose it last second. But it should be fun. It should be a tough game, divisional matchup rivalry. But I think the Eagles will come away victorious, and hopefully they come away victorious because
I need them to come out with a good, clean plan, and if it doesn't work, they need to adjust.
Yeah,
and they have to run the damn ball.
They have to be able to stay to what they are. Use the RPO, use it to their advantage, and to be able to move the ball and to be able to, be the type of team that we saw early in the year and be the type of team that we expect them to be.
Right.
That's kind of how, I'm looking at it. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. But thank everyone for joining, watching, commenting, everything along the lines of that. Again, we also did get AATBirds merch in. So if you check our Instagram story, you'll see that. Anybody interested in that, either message us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be, and we will get in contact with you and we'll get you some. But
slide into the DMs, dog.
Yeah, just not the way that sounded. I don't want it. But with that, we always end every show with a very happy and hopefully this week it's a joyful
Go Birds!
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird. All birds all the time.
All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.